There are some kids in the classroom, and there's this thing we say back home: all fingers are not equal. So there are some kids that need that little extra help. There are some kids that need a little more than extra help. And just from reaching that, getting that extra help, I've seen some students, they go from like far below to like, okay, approaching mastery and getting mastery and all of those things. So it's just mostly about like breaking that bridge of the school want to get money, or they want to put this is going to be on my kids record for the rest of their life. And I don't want my kid to be taking medications and all of those things. And sometimes parents within themselves, they know like the very truth of like, yo, my kid do need this help. So by like taking that help away from your kid, I think sometimes parents are not doing them justice. And sometimes in the classroom, the kids be like, "Oh, I do need help."
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Educators Matter, where learning is the true superpower and the new superpower. Today, I got a great guest for you. Um, Great guy. But I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Give us the who, the what, and the where.
Well, my name is Ted Zulu. I was born in West Africa, Liberia, and I moved over to the U.S. In 2016. I was still in high school in 12th grade, and I did 1 year in the U.S. and then graduated and then went to Bloomfield College, where I studied math. And then, I was really confused about what I really wanted to do because I was studying math and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But then I met a great guy, which is crazy. His name is New Sun, who's my mentor right now. And then, he asked me, he's like, I got a teaching opportunity for you since you did math and you're about to graduate. Are you sure you want to do it? And I was like, you know what, let me try it. Did my first year with Success Academy. I liked the kids, but, didn't like the work environment. So it was not really conducive for me. So I wanted to quit. Then my mentor asked me, he was like, maybe it's your first year. Everybody first year suck. So you should try something somewhere else. And then he put me into a Ascend Charter School in New York, and I worked in the city for about 3 years. And then, I moved over to Jersey. Now I'm working with some charter schools in Jersey. But
Awesome.
yeah, why do I, like education? Well, I feel like when I was teaching in the city, I saw that, there are kids who actually want to learn, and they're not getting really that support that they need to get in the classroom. And it's mostly about like students with like special education needs. So, sometimes they're like, oh, you guys could go in the classroom, give them small packets to work on by themselves. But I noticed that, even though they're working on it by themselves, they're not really learning. They're not getting all that experience that other students were getting in the classroom. So that's why really I was like, I think I want to do this special education thing. So I decided to, join Relay. And then I started going to school with Relay for 1 year, doing my cert in the Master's the Arts of Teaching, and then my cert in special education. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So you say you love education. Why math? Why do you pick math?
Uh, the reason why I picked math is because I noticed that in school, even when I was at a younger age, math was not really my favorite subject. And I saw that the reason why math was not my favorite subject, because like science, like history, everybody grew up. Okay, I love history because they talk about the sweet story, but you never really hear a lot of kids talking about, okay, I love math. So what I think, I was like, maybe it's because I'm not giving math that affection that everybody give history, everybody gives science. So maybe if I was to change that, then I could turn things around. Then maybe I start looking at things from a different lens. So, I didn't like math to middle school, high school, towards the end of high school. I was like, you know what? I like challenges. Let me try this. And then, I started showing that love towards math. And the more I showed that love, the more I was able to give math time. And that time turned into something different. And I started to understand the subject on a whole different, level. So,
Yeah.
just for the sense of like, trying to help students to like really change their mindset. It's about changing the mindset in society. And notice that when I was going to school, especially in America, back home, a lot of black teachers taught me math. In America, when I did 1 year, I had people of like different colors who were teaching math. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I could change that around. Maybe I could be that person who could teach a black kid math on their level. and actually change their mindset and let them know that, yo, if I could do it, you could do it too.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's funny, man. When I was in school, middle and high school, I hated math, and I even struggled in college. I just wasn't into it. I didn't see myself in it. I didn't understand the value of it. I didn't have teachers or educators who helped to unlock and engage what was so important about it. But the reason I always bring it up, and I tell people who are math teachers when I'm coaching, etc., is that I tell them this story because the story didn't end there, right? A few years out of college, I had so many different jobs. But one of the jobs I had was I worked for a mortgage company. And the bigger conversation around it was my mom, as a single mother, was struggling with some mortgage stuff around being able to pay the bills and having a high interest loan and refinancing all of that. I remember tapping in to a friend of mine who had somebody who worked in the business, and I tried to check in to see if he could, figure it out. Long story short, he told me it was nothing he could do, and mom's ended up losing the house. Right. A couple years later, I ended up getting a job at a similar spot to just kind of learn the game. I was like, let me find out what's the science behind a lot of this. And outside of finding out that we could have kept the house, it just wasn't a lot of money in it for the guy. But aside from that, I learned a great deal of how to maneuver and understand the concepts of mortgage rates, points, buy downs, and all of that. I mean, literally, probably within a 2 to 3 month span.
Wow.
And I was tremendously successful in the time that I was there, to the point where the owner and I got really, really cool. And one day we were out to lunch. He was like, "Man, you must have been some type of mathematician when
Wow.
you were in school." And it never dawned on me to make the connection until he said it, because he was trying to figure out how good I was and where it came from.
Mm.
And it just made me think, I'm like, man, if I really did have a teacher who could unlock this level of interest in me when I was 10, 11, 12 years old,
Mhm.
what the possibilities could have been for me as a mathematician. Because the realities of mortgages and real life connections
Yes.
awakened something in me to be able to make all the concepts make sense in a way that didn't make sense before that. So definitely appreciate you contributing to that, to unlock the younger Newsom
Yeah.
that's sitting in class right now, with an opportunity to be able to build on that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, go ahead.
And that goes back to what you were saying, just really trying to like make real life connection. So in a math class, like I think mostly when I was growing up, we spoke about a lot of the things in the classroom, and I was looking at it from like an abstract lens, like things I've never seen before, right? But like in trying to make those connections, sometimes it's a lot harder for kids who already have that mindset of I can't do it. So if you're in the classroom and you're teaching things in the classroom that are like kids see around them, they're able to talk about, like discounts in the store and everything. Those things, it makes them to be a lot more interested in the topic, because when they go to the store, sometimes they're like discounts on things. They're able to, calculate their own discount. So if you're teaching things that kids see every day, it brings that, like curiosity, right? Like, okay, where can I use this? How can I use it in my daily life? So that's why, like really making that connection in real life as math teachers is like it's super, super important.
Sure. So let's switch gears for a minute. You've been in education for a few years now. Um, what's one of the biggest pain points for you in education?
Well, one of the biggest pain point is, I would say, like parents' contribution, and there are a lot of parents out there who really like contribute on a higher level, and and there are some parents that don't contribute. Like they do what they can, and then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, it's not really their fault sometimes, because in the society we live in, sometimes like there are parents, they have jobs, sometimes they while the kids coming from school around like 4 o'clock, that's when they go home, they got to go to work. So like how can we really try to break things down on like a lower level to like really show parents that, yo, we support you, right? but like how can we build that bridge where you get the chance to really support us? So, and that it is a struggle, and it's not like a one-time thing that could be really soft right now, but it's just something like, like both parents and teachers could like really try to work with, and like the society we live in with like the black community, how we're not really being supported sometimes. So, like the real parents connection, like trying to help in the classroom. When I say in the classroom, I'm not saying like, coming actually to help in the classroom, but like, just making sure when your kids come home, asking them, are you doing your homework? Do you have homework? And I do have a lot of parents who really check in on their kids and make sure and keep in communication with me, like, okay, is my kid doing their homework, or what do they need to do in the classroom? How can I support you in the classroom? Just that parent support. But once we get that parent support, when the kids know that the teacher and the parent and my parent, they're really on the same page, that will really like help the students and know that everybody is out for your best interest. Yeah.
For sure. Now you specialize in SPED, and so give me your thoughts on IEPs, compliance versus trying to help students, and just like your just personal thoughts and your take on that.
Well, with the IEP compliance, sometimes when I used to work in Brooklyn, we had a lot of instances where there were some students who really needed that, special educational need. But there's this stigma out there where parents think that, they're trying to get money, for the school's trying to get money from my kid, or this is gonna be on the kid's record for the rest of their life. And truly speaking, I mean, it is going to be on the record, right? But we got to look at like the brighter side. The school is trying to help students, right? So if you don't give us that consent, how can we really help the kids? Because there are some kids in the classroom, and there's this thing we say back home: all fingers are not equal. So there are some kids that need that little extra help. There are some kids that need a little more than extra help, right? And just from getting that extra help, I've seen some students, they go from like far below to like, okay, approaching mastery and getting mastery and all of those things. So it's just mostly about like breaking that bridge of like, you know, the school want to get money, or they want to put this is going to be on my kid's record for the rest of their life. And I don't want my kid to be taking medications and all of those things. And sometimes parents within themselves, they know like the very truth of like, my kid do need this help. So by like taking that help away from your kid, I think sometimes parents are not doing them justice. And sometimes in the classroom, the kids be like, oh, I do need help. So, why are you trying to take that help from your kid that really could empower them to become someone great? And then, I didn't believe it when one of this famous rapper was talking about the Chance the Rapper. He said he was one of those students in school. He had special needs, right? So, you seeing like people like if Chance the Rapper could be who he is today while getting those special needs, that means your kid could be Obama one of these days, could be Michelle Obama, could be, one of these great people. But you taking that help away from them, you're taking away their greatness. And that's not really fair to them. And when it comes to like, like the IEP compliance, I think parents should like really look at the brighter side instead of saying, I don't want my kid to be seen as a like a SPED student. Okay, so what? That's the real question. Like, okay, so what? When I came from back and I used this, I was just speaking to one of my students' parents, because in the classroom, he got some girl he's trying to talk to in the classroom. So when he got to move to the back table and make it seem like, he's dumb, I'm like, no, you're not dumb. When I came from back home, son, I never knew how to write an essay when I went to college. So what did I do? I started writing level on the lowest level in college. Every day, if you go to Bloomfield, like if those people still work there, they will tell you I was always in the writing center. Why did I do that? I knew I needed that support, so I had to go and get that support. And ain't nobody taking my greatness away from me. And that's just what it is. And look at me, look at where I'm at today. I'm able to write argumentative essays. I'm able to do like different things. It was all because I was able to identify, first of all, I need that help, and I gotta want it for myself, and I gotta go and get it. So parents, I know kids are not in that situation where they could make their own decisions. So parents are the one making that decisions for them. So I'm really like pleading with these parents, like, yo, don't take your kids' greatness away from them. If they need that support, let them get that support. Yeah.
That's why I say learning is a superpower, man.
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on retention?
So, it's really tricky because where I was back home, kids were if you don't do good in the school year, you're gonna get routine. And I'm like half and half, and the reason why I say half and half because like, what if a kid is not just doing well? Are you gonna keep holding them? Then they're 20-year-old in like the eighth grade. So it's kind of weird because like you're gonna notice that like the social thinking is not gonna be up to standard with like other kids in the classroom. And we do see like there are some kids they could change the whole culture in the classroom because they're thinking on a whole different level. So, I'm kind of half and half. And there are some instances where kids should get held back, because if you are getting all the support you need in the classroom and you're using it in a negative way and you're still not trying to progress, and I think there are in those instances, like there's nothing the school could do, but there are some situations where the kids getting the support they need in the classroom and they are trying to give their 100%. Sometimes maybe it's that kid is not really in that maturity mindset yet. Wherein I've seen students in the seventh grade class, they do nothing in the seventh grade class, and this year in the eighth grade classroom, it's like we just unlocked a whole new level of a kid where they're participating, they're doing this, they're doing that. So sometimes it's like all about like the maturity. Because when I was younger, I was one of those people who was like the youngest in the classroom, and I was super playful. They would be talking about some things and I wouldn't really think about it on a different level. But as I grew up and I got to like a certain level of like, and I gained that certain level of maturity, I'm like, okay, maybe it's time for me to like wake up and do something. So I'm really, really half and half, and it's a really, really big topic to really talk on. But I would say I'm half and half. There are some students like, yo, you're getting all the support you need, and you're still not utilizing that. So at the point like we can't really help you. Maybe you need this as a wake up call. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Um, what's your thoughts on standardized testing?
All right. So as a special education teacher, I think, like with standardized testing, sometimes it's not really fair to our students, in like the special education setting where, you know, sometimes I have students in the classroom in my small group where I have to go on a lower level to teach things that are like, like the ground roots, and we haven't gotten to that standard where like they're doing like that grade level stuff yet. So in those instances, I think like modifications are like really, really super important for certain kids, because if the kid is not really doing that grade level content yet, like why would you want to test them on that grade level content? I don't think it's really fair to them. And I sometimes I see like when students see their grades and they're looking at their friend's grade in the classroom, they feel super disappointed. And I'm like, sometimes that really breaks their confidence down. Like you're doing good in the classroom that you're in because the content level of things you're doing in the classroom is a little bit different from what people are doing in the gen ed class, right? So if you go to take what they're doing in the gen ed class, obviously you're not gonna do as good as other people who've been doing that content level stuff. So that's why I'm like standardized tests sometimes they're good, but if the kid is on that grade level, cognitively, it's good for standardized testing. But are there going to be a situation where they're bringing modifications in for like students who are in special education, to help them also to boost their ego? Sometimes like if I'm doing this grade level stuff, maybe a kid who cognitively is like on the fourth grade level, maybe he should test and see, okay, all the stuff you've been doing, have you made progress from that?
Right.
Because
For
if I'm
sure.
doing the eighth grade level stuff and I test, obviously it's not going to show that I'm making any progress because that's not what the level of stuff I'm doing in the classroom. It's not up to par with the eighth grade level. So it's kind of not really fair to, students sometimes. Yeah.
Right. For sure. What's your thoughts on suspensions? Students being suspended.
I think suspensions, students really shouldn't get suspended until it's like something that's really outrageous because in the society we live in, students, like a lot of students don't want to be in the classroom. So if you're telling them, you know, I'm gonna suspend you, like you're telling them, okay, I'm doing exactly what you want me to do. So like the school I'm with right now, we got something that's called like the comeback scholars. I think it's really great. Wherein like when students they're not doing what they're supposed to do in the regular class, okay, we're gonna take you from this space. We're not gonna suspend you. You're still gonna get your work done. You're still gonna be in school, but you're just not gonna be with the whole group seeking that attention that you want. So I think students shouldn't really get suspended because taking them out of the classroom is not helping them. Honestly, that's
For
how I
sure.
look at it.
For sure. So you mentioned like one of the pain points being, trying to navigate parent responsibility and contributions, also recognizing some of the challenges. What do you think is the percentage of responsibility for parents versus like the school and teachers
Well,
to help educate students?
I think it's like a 65 to 35 thinking because students spend most of their days with like most of their time with us, you know, and they go home. So like 65% of the communication should really just come from teachers. So we're making sure we're keeping parents up to date because sometimes parents will ask the question, "Why you didn't let me know ahead of time?" Or why I didn't know this until we got to this point. So just making sure we are keeping parents up to date. And once we take our responsibility of that 65%, the 35% we need is just from that parent support. Like, okay, I'm making sure my kid is doing their homework, making sure when they get home, they're not just, playing around all the time, making sure they're getting something done at home. And once that support with the 65 and the 35 come together, that's 100%. It'll really help to let the student know, yo, we're not playing about you. We want you to be successful. So,
Yeah, that teacher parent
yeah,
collaboration.
teacher parent collaboration, yeah.
For sure, for sure. Thinking about when you were a student versus now as an educator, what do you see as the differences between then and now, and what has improved and what may have been better when you was a student?
Well, what I noticed that have improved is like, mostly like the kid, like the school I'm in right now, I think a lot of teachers like genuinely do care about students. Like it might not be everybody, but you have that one person in the school that you could go to that will be your person. So whereas when I was younger, teachers expected me to be good. They didn't really care about what was going on at home. They just came to do their job and bounce and that's it. But like now, I noticed a lot of teachers like genuinely do care, and it's not just from the school I'm in currently. It's from like other schools I've been in where when a kid is sad, teachers are asking them like, "What's going on? What is it I could do to help you?" and all of those things. Where but back then, what I would say was that what's different from now is like social media wasn't really a big thing, and now social media is a big thing where a lot of students are really just on social media. They're trying to be out there, to the point that every little drama they're into it. We had drama back then, but the way social media is big now, it's not as much as possible. And I would say a lot of students during my age, because I'm not gonna lie, even though I went to school in America here, but it was only for 1 year. So, but back home, if I was to speak about my experience back home, it was really hard to see like people getting into drama like that. Because where I grew up, I didn't have phone till I was like 16, 17, music. So, with all the drama, the only time I would really hang out with my friends is on my way back home. Other than that, I don't even see my friends because I really used to live far from them. So, and also like here with the students we teach now, a lot of them live like really close to each other. So
Yeah,
any little drama get transferred at home, then it's like some. So we notice that most of the drama just don't really come from the school. Sometimes it's like from outside of the school. So if I was to say now, teachers really do care, but like teachers really do care now, but the drama outside of school sometimes drags it to a little bit to the point where it's really outside of the hands of the teachers. Whereas
right.
back then, you know, teachers did care, but with the type of students they were dealing with and the type of, like the society wasn't as modern as now, how it is. So things are a lot different now, honestly. So I would say there was some good and some bad, but like really naming the positive and the negative, I would say teachers caring right now, it's on a different level. And like with the content level of like teaching, the way we were taught things back then, it's it's a lot different from how we were taught things now. Now it's more about
Yeah.
like, okay, how can I break things down on the easiest level so every kid in the classroom could really understand? Back then, my teacher would just come and teach it. If you understand it, you don't understand it, that's up to you. Go home
Right.
and
I
study.
taught it.
Yeah,
You ain't learn it
that's it. That's on you.
for
But
sure.
here, it's okay. If I teach it, how can I reteach it so that you could understand it? So sometimes in the classroom, we teachers really bring in targeted do nouns and stuff, and sometimes they will edit their like the unit or edit the lesson just to break it down on a lower level so students are able to understand it. Try to make that real life connections and all of those things. When I was younger, teachers wouldn't really care about making that real life connection. They would just try to teach you like the procedure, not to get that conceptual understanding. Yeah. So procedure
For
was
sure.
really a big thing back then. Now it's all about how can you understand it conceptually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick pivot to just like you as a black man, race and gender. I mean, you represent that 1% of those in education. Um, you're a unicorn, bro.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, when I was growing up, I had a lot of, I mean, when I was in college, I had a lot of friends who, when we were going to school, they were all about, oh, I want to do business, I want to do that, and what I saw, I was like, I'm looking for something where, I'm going to be good for the rest of my life, where I'm going to always have a job. And just to be, and I noticed that a lot of people that were into education were mostly females, and I'm not talking down on females, kudos to them, but I didn't see that much male figure in the classroom. And that was something, I was like, what if I could be in the classroom? What if I could be that inspiration to that one kid who don't know that, I could be a teacher to one day, or I could like math to one day. So just being that, male figure in the classroom where a lot of young boys look up to, because what we talk about in the world we live in right now about like the YNs, a lot of boys they're grown up, I don't care about that school stuff, because they see a lot of, if men figure or like male figure, they're not in the classroom. So, I don't think I have to do that too. I don't have to care about school. I could just grow up, get whatever job I could do, work at McDonald's, and then I'll be cool. But also think about how can I build a generation where when I have kids, those generations are going to be able to take care of my kids too. That's what I look at it from that, that lens. Because if I'm not in the classroom to help teach kids, who's going to grow up one day to be Mr. Z? I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
for
have
sure.
that person, right? So in order for me to set my kids up, I also have to help this generation because in years to come, this generation they're gonna be the one responsible for my kids' generation. So if I'm not helping this generation, then who's gonna help my kids? So that's why I see it from. It's not about like being that unicorn. It's about really helping the generation we have now, changing our mindset from like YN, you could be Mr. Z, Mr. Q, from instead of being called a YN. You don't have to stand at a corner store to make money, right? You could actually go and learn something. And a lot of these kids in the classroom, they're super smart, but they don't have that person to tell them, yo, you could do it. You could do it. And with the world we live in now, a lot of these kids, sometimes they think they're going to be the LeBron James. And I tell them, and I'm like, yo, if you were to check in the world and look how many people make it to the NBA or the NFL, and easy game. So if you have that soft mindset, you won't be able to make it. You need to be tough. You need to stand out. So even if you want to make it to the NFL and you're really good athletically, right? But you also have that, you need to have that mindset of like, yo, I could calculate my own money. So, or you're gonna have to pay somebody, or you're gonna have to pay the white man to take care of your money. No, you don't really want that. You want to be able to take care of your own money. So it's mostly about setting them in the right space and about telling them like, yo, if I could do it too, you could do it too. So
Yeah.
I'm not just like a male figure in the classroom. I'm also like an inspiration, just to let the kids know that, yo, this thing, it might seem like it's difficult. That's how I used to think about it. To be a teacher, you have to be like some, like wizard. No, you don't. As you stay in the
Yeah,
classroom, the more you teach, the more you learn yourself also. Yeah.
for sure. You don't have children of your own, correct?
No, no, no.
Do you think there's a difference being a parent, not being a parent when it comes to teaching? And if so, what is it, or do you not think so?
Well, I don't really think so because I don't have kids, but I really genuinely do care about kids. So and in some point, it could be right that when you have kids, you have that sympathy for all kids. And so, but in my perspective, I don't think it really changes who you are though. If you're somebody who genuinely love kids, regardless of having your own, you're still gonna love kids. So that's how I think about it. I don't think it really changed your mindset because I've seen people who have children and when they go in the classroom, they're like super nasty to kids. So I don't really think. I think it's something that comes from within.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's just dream for a second. If
hmm
you could build, the perfect school or the perfect classroom, what would be in Mr. Z's classroom or school?
Well, if I could build a perfect school or perfect classroom, I would say perfect school, right? For example, I was speaking to one of my friend about this. I was like, when I have kids, I want each of my kids to at least have something that they're really dope at. For example, have one musical instrument you're good at. Have one subject that you really love and you're really good at. I'm not saying you're not gonna learn the other subjects and everything. Yeah, but you should have something that really drives you in school. Because once students don't have that thing that drives them in school, they feel like they have no purpose in school, right? So in my own dream school, I would have I would have like art clubs, for example. I would have like math clubs. I would have sport clubs. I will have musical instrument clubs, right? So with all of those things, even though sometimes students might not be good at math or ELA either, right? But even though they're trying though, but like you could look at some of the greatest musicians ever. Those people were not good at math, they were not good at ELA, but they knew how to write music. Once we give them access to all of the things they need, then they have the choice to make it. So my dream school would be like a school that really just gives support to students, like where there are special education classroom with small group, in like separate spaces where the teachers in the classroom, they got help in the classroom where there's like that second body in the classroom. What I've noticed like here I'm the second body in some of my inclusion classes, and when I notice like while the teacher is going around, what the teacher is teaching, and I'm going around checking with certain students, it take that
Yeah.
burden off the teacher, and they're able to like really just teach the lesson lively, and why there's that sex. So I'll have make sure I have like other like a second help in the classroom, somebody who's like really hands on, because sometimes there are people who they're in the classroom but sometimes they're not there. Just put people who really love to teach the subject, people who are really interested in making kids learn. That's what I'll have. But like with the extra activity or extracurricular stuff, I think they're really, really super important because
Yeah.
even sometimes the kid might not be good at like the core subjects and all of those things, but when they get in the music classroom, they're showing something that makes them look exceptional, and people could really respect them for who they are in that space.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
So yeah.
Thanks for that, man. Question for you: where you see yourself 1 year, 3 years, 5 years?
So in 5 years from, I wouldn't say in 5 years from now, I see myself, working heavily in like special education where I'm like probably like a special education coordinator or, like assistant principal of special education, but the work is still on me also, to get my master's done. So I have to take that bold step first and get what I could do on my side, get it done first. Then everything else is gonna work out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll get you out of here on this question here. What is a message that you would want to give to other educators, speaking to them, watching this right now, to hear from you?
The job ain't easy. It's not easy, and we got to really think about people who were there before us, right? If they had the patience to go deal with our attitude and all of the things, because we're not perfect. We weren't perfect, right? And if there are people who are able to have the patience and deal with us, I think it's not fair to the younger generation coming up to like just have that low tolerance, because I've seen a lot of general education teachers be like, yo, I can't deal with this right now. The job we do, it ain't easy, but that's why when we see students walk up on that stage, we're smiling because we know it's not easy. So the message I would give to, other educators is that, yo, it's not easy. Let's be real. And let's try to take away that mentality of like, yo, why is it always difficult? Why is this kid like this? No, every kid is like a puzzle. And it's up to us to try to figure out how we could break through that puzzle to be successful. And once we are successful, we're gonna see the whole different side of that kid. So the whole it's supposed to be easy and this and that. Yeah, no, it's ain't no job easy, and there's nothing easy. So we gotta be able to like really come to that reality of like, yo, it's not easy, but what can I do to make it fun? So
For
it's us
sure.
that could really bring in that joy for ourselves. Ain't nobody could make you happy but yourself, and that's just
100%.
real talk.
Listen, man, I say it all the time. This is it's not for the weak. It's not for the weak. And you are definitely not weak, bro. You're strong, you're important, you matter. Appreciate you being on. Appreciate you giving your insight. And I can't wait to get you back on here, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
All right.
Educators matter, and you matter,
Definitely.
sir.
Definitely.
100%.
All right.